The morning sun filtered through the towering glass windows of the studio, casting long golden streaks across the polished floor. The energy in the air was electric, a tension you could almost feel pulsating through the set. Fans filed in, buzzing with excitement, holding their signs, snapping selfies, chatting animatedly about the surprise guest of the day. The cameras were rolling, the crew bustling behind the scenes, monitors flickering with live feeds, and producers whispering last-minute instructions. On a day like this, everything should have been perfect as smooth. Lighthearted interview with Hugh Jackman, the beloved actor whose charm seemed to bridge every divide. But something felt off, a subtle unease threading its way beneath the surface. Like static before a storm, Hugh Jackman arrived, impeccably dressed, a charming smile on his face, exuding warmth and professionalism. He waved to fans, shook hands with the crew, and sat down in the plush guest chair, the audience erupting in applause. Across from him, Kelly Clarkson, radiant and confident as ever, flashed her signature smile, her excitement palpable. The cameras panned between them, capturing the dynamic chemistry that viewers had come to love. But as the interview began, the initial laughter and light conversation carried a hint of tension and undercurrent that no one in the audience could see, but would soon feel with full force. The first few questions were typical: movie promotions, charity work, upcoming projects. Hugh answered graciously, anecdotes flowing naturally, his voice calm but deliberate. Kelly laughed, interjecting playful comments, nudging the conversation into familiar territory. Yet beneath the smiles, there were flickers of friction, and the hesitation here, a subtle eye roll there. The audience, caught up in the energy, didn't notice, but the crew backstage exchanged glances. Something was brewing. The cameras captured every micro-expression, Hugh's jaw tightening slightly when a topic shifted unexpectedly, Kelly leaning forward, her brows knitting together as she asked a pointed follow-up. The first hint of conflict came when Kelly veered into a question about recent Hollywood controversies. It was a subject many might avoid on daytime television, yet she approached it with her usual candor, probing gently but insistently. Hugh responded carefully, measured in tone, but his words carried weight, a quiet assertiveness that hinted at discomfort. The audience clapped politely, sensing an unusual seriousness, but they didn't yet grasp the storm gathering on stage. Kelly, sensing the tension, pressed further, her voice sharp but controlled. The interplay between charm and confrontation created an almost tangible electricity in the room, a collision of personalities that had never been seen in this context. As the conversation intensified, small gestures became magnified. Hugh leaned back slightly, crossing his arms, a protective posture, subtle yet noticeable. Kelly leaned in, her hand punctuating a point, her tone growing firmer. The dialogue shifted from playful banter to a probing exchange, exploring topics that were clearly uncomfortable for both. The laughter faded, replaced by a low hum of suspense. Camera angles tightened on their faces, capturing every flicker of emotion, a raised eyebrow, a pursed lip, a subtle narrowing of eyes. It was live television, but it felt like something more, an intimate glimpse into a clash of wills, unfolding in real time. Behind the scenes, producers began to murmur, sensing that the exchange might tip over into something larger. The control room, normally a bastion of order, buzzed with low-level panic. Crew members exchanged rapid, quiet instructions, preparing for contingencies. Social media monitors in the background flickered with incoming comments, the first hints of online attention already appearing. Even at this early stage, clips of the heated tone were being shared in whispers, snippets of audio and video teasing the public with the unfolding drama. Hugh's tone, once warm and accommodating, began to harden. He was precise, deliberate, refusing to concede points lightly. Kelly, equally resolute, matched his intensity, her voice rising just enough to convey authority without losing composure. The back and forth escalated quickly, yet remained controlled. On the surface, it was the kind of confrontation that made the audience lean in, hearts quickening, attention thick enough to almost touch. Every word carried weight, every glance held meaning, and the studio seemed to shrink around them, as if the walls themselves were drawing closer to witness the unraveling. The audience, sensing a shift, became increasingly restless. Murmurs spread, like wildfire whispers of curiosity, speculation, excitement. Cameras panned across the crowd, catching fleeting expressions of shock, intrigue, and suspense. Social media feeds began to spike, viewers tweeting reactions in real time, their excitement feeding the drama. Memes, GIFs, and short clips would soon emerge, capturing micro moments that seemed to define the clash before it had even reached its peak. And then, a critical moment arrived. A particularly pointed question struck at a sensitive topic, one that Hugh had clearly not anticipated. His pause was almost imperceptible, a fraction of a second, but in the charged atmosphere of live television, it felt like an eternity. The audience felt the weight of the hesitation, a crack in the carefully constructed facade. Kelly, sensing the opening, pressed again, her voice steady but firm, pushing against the boundaries of the conversation. Hugh responded, but the calm veneer cracked. His words carried an edge, a subtle intensity that signaled frustration. The delicate balance of charm, humor, and professionalism teetered on the brink. Crew members behind the cameras stiffened, aware that a line was being approached. Producers exchanged hurried glances, the unspoken question hanging in the air. Would this escalate beyond recovery? The tension was palpable, threading through the air like static electricity before a lightning strike. Every eye in the studio, every camera, every microphone was tuned to the unfolding drama. The audience, oblivious to the backstage maneuvers, leaned forward, drawn to the palpable sense of confrontation, captivated by the collision of two powerful personalities. Hugh's gestures became more animated, hands slicing through the air as he emphasized his points. Kelly's responses matched the intensity, her tone unwavering, challenging without aggression, commanding attention in a way that left the audience riveted. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as the dialogue crackled with unspoken tension. Every camera angle highlighted the drama, close-ups on tightened jaws, furrowed brows, subtle eye movements that spoke louder than words. The live feed captured the chemistry of conflict, raw and unfiltered, a moment that would soon dominate social media discourse. It was at this precise juncture that the producers made the difficult decision. The exchange, once a friendly dialogue, had crossed into territory deemed too volatile for live broadcast. Their eyes met Hugh's, then Kelly's, signaling the intervention that would soon unfold. The audience, caught between awe and anticipation, remained unaware of the impending disruption, their curiosity heightened, hearts pounding with the suspense of the unknown. As Hugh rose from his chair, a mixture of frustration and disbelief. On his face, the studio seemed to collectively hold its breath. Kelly maintained her composure, though tension radiated from her posture, the clash of wills palpable. The live cameras captured every micro-moment, the hesitation before his step, the subtle tightening of his lips, the brief, almost imperceptible glance to the side, signaling recognition of the unfolding consequences. Crew members moved quickly, positioning themselves to manage the live situation with precision, while producers whispered instructions in rapid-fire sequences. In that moment, the audience witnessed something extraordinary, the collision of celebrity, professionalism, and human emotion, raw and unfiltered. A charisma that Hugh Jackman was known for remained, but layered beneath it was an undeniable tension, a hint of vulnerability and defiance that captivated viewers. Kelly Clarkson, equally poised and commanding, matched every movement, every word, embodying both the host's charm and the authority required to navigate the volatile exchange. The room seemed suspended in time, each second drawn out, a cinematic tableau of confrontation and suspense. As the sequence came to a close, with Hugh being escorted discreetly off stage, the audience erupted in a mixture of gasps, applause, and whispers. Cameras captured the shock, the incredulity, the mixture of emotions flickering across faces. Social media feeds exploded almost instantly, clips and snippets spreading like wildfire, teasing the public with glimpses of the confrontation. The narrative had shifted from a lighthearted interview to a full-blown television event, a viral moment destined to dominate headlines, trending across platforms, dissected and debated by millions. The moment left a lingering question hanging in the air. What had triggered such a dramatic escalation, and what would the fallout look like for two of the most prominent figures in entertainment? It was a perfect storm, an unforgettable collision of personality, professionalism, and the unpredictable nature of live television. The opening chapter had set the stage for the story to come, intense, cinematic, and brimming with suspense, pulling viewers inexorably forward to uncover the truth behind the confrontation that shook daytime TV to its core. The stage, now quiet and almost surreal in its aftermath, reflected the enormity of the event. Lights that had once cast warmth now glimmered with a sterile intensity, highlighting the echoes of the audience's reaction. Backstage monitors replayed snippets, crew members whispered their interpretations, and the first waves of social media commentary began to shape public perception. The story was no longer just about an interview. It had become a study in tension, personality, and the fragility of live broadcast dynamics. Every moment, every glance, every word mattered, and the world was watching. By the time the cameras cut to commercial, the narrative was already spiraling outward, destined to dominate news cycles, trending on social platforms, and igniting debates among fans, critics, and casual viewers alike. The opening hook had achieved its purpose: suspense, drama, and emotional intensity that would carry audiences into the unfolding story, demanding attention and engagement. What began as a routine interview had transformed into a high-stakes narrative, a real-life drama that blurred the line between entertainment and spectacle, leaving viewers eager and anxious to see what would happen next. The atmosphere backstage was thick with tension, a quiet storm brewing just out of sight. As the cameras rolled for the next segment, the crew whispered in hurried tones, their eyes darting toward monitors that replayed the heated exchange between Hugh Jackman and Kelly Clarkson. The audience, still buzzing from the abrupt disruption, settled into an uneasy murmur. What had started as a light-hearted interview now lingered like a question mark hanging over everyone's heads. Even in the bustling energy of live television, the air had shifted. Something unpredictable had been unleashed, and no one was quite sure how it would unfold next. Hugh, moments after being escorted off stage, paused in the green room, taking a slow, measured breath. His charm, so effortless during promotional events and interviews, had been tested like never before. He ran a hand through his hair, his mind replaying every word, every inflection of the dialogue that had escalated beyond control. Fellow cast members and staff approached cautiously, offering sympathetic nods and gentle reassurances. Yet beneath the politeness, there was an undeniable tension, the recognition that live television could magnify even minor disagreements into global spectacles. Every gesture Hugh made was now scrutinized, every facial expression potentially viral. Across the stage, Kelly Clarkson retreated to her chair, her composure intact, yet radiating a quiet intensity. To the casual viewer, she had handled the confrontation with grace, maintaining professionalism despite the escalating tension. But behind the polished smile, Kelly's mind was racing. Her instincts as a host told her that she had navigated a fine line engaging the conversation without losing control. But the unexpected turn of events left her both exhilarated and wary. Her team gathered around, screens glowing with social media reactions, the first waves of commentary already shaping the narrative. The hashtags were trending, clips spreading rapidly, and the tension of live television had now expanded into a digital spectacle. The interview segment, initially intended to highlight Hugh's upcoming projects, had become a case study in conflict management and personality dynamics. Analysts and commentators would later dissect every micro moment. Hugh's precise pauses, the slight furrow of Kelly's brow, the way they leaned in and away from each other in a dance of tension and authority. The world outside the studio was watching, waiting to see whether this confrontation would fizzle into an awkward anecdote or explode into a media frenzy. Every movement on set felt amplified, a ripple that would carry far beyond the studio walls. As the cameras captured wide shots of the now tense set, the production team worked feverishly to recalibrate the narrative. Directors whispered into headsets, adjusting angles, cutting unnecessary shots, and ensuring that the footage retained the energy while keeping the flow manageable for viewers. Every cut mattered, every camera transition a tool to balance entertainment and authenticity. Even as the audience settled back into their seats, a sense of anticipation lingered like a low hum. Something significant had occurred, and its echoes would not fade quickly. Behind the scenes, producers and writers began piecing together what had gone wrong, analyzing dialogue exchanges, body language, and timing. They debated whether Hugh's response had been misinterpreted, whether Kelly's follow-ups had struck too forcefully, or whether the chemistry between them simply reached a tipping point no one anticipated. Live television, they realized, was both a blessing and a curse. It offered immediacy, intimacy, and engagement, but it left no room for error. Even minor misalignments could become viral moments overnight, shaping public perception in ways that scripted segments never could. Social media, as expected, had already become a pressure cooker. Clips of the arguments circulated rapidly, retweeted, and reposted with commentary ranging from amusement to outrage. Fans weighed in passionately, dissecting every frame, every tone of voice, every subtle gesture. Some praised Hugh for standing his ground, framing him as a principled actor unwilling to be cornered. Others lauded Kelly for maintaining composure, seeing her as a strong host who could navigate confrontation gracefully. The debate spilled across platforms, drawing attention not only to the incident itself, but to the dynamics of celebrity behavior, media responsibility, and the intensity of live broadcast culture. Meanwhile, back in the studio, the tension between calm professionalism and unspoken conflict continued to simmer. Hugh reviewed notes and promotional materials, preparing for his next steps, while Kelly, attentive and reflective, considered her approach to the remaining segments. Their respective teams exchanged strategies, each mindful of public perception, each aware that any misstep could be amplified to millions of viewers. The situation highlighted an essential truth about live television. Every word, every glance, every reaction carried consequences far beyond the immediate moment. The conversation that had ignited the confrontation also revealed underlying dynamics that audiences rarely saw: the collision of personality, experience, and expectation. Hugh's background as a seasoned actor, trained to navigate interviews with poise, clashed with Kelly's instinctual drive as a host to probe, challenge, and engage deeply. What might have been a simple disagreement on any other platform became charged with significance in the glare of studio lights and the immediacy of live broadcast. Every gesture, every tone, every subtle inflection became a part of the unfolding narrative, watched by thousands in real time and analyzed by millions more online. As the segment continued, producers made strategic adjustments, crafting transitions that could restore flow while respecting the heightened tension. Camera shots emphasized reactions, audience responses, and small telling gestures, capturing the narrative of human interaction under pressure. The pacing of the show became a delicate dance, maintaining engagement while allowing the drama to breathe, providing viewers with an immersive experience of a conflict that felt intimate yet public. The fallout of the incident extended beyond the studio that day. Clips and GIFs circulated rapidly, sparking commentary from journalists, entertainment analysts, and everyday viewers alike. Media outlets highlighted the unprecedented nature of the confrontation, dissecting the behaviors, questioning the choices, and speculating on motivations. The story transcended the simple framework of an interview. It became a cultural moment, a lens through which the public examined celebrity authenticity, interpersonal dynamics, and the unpredictable nature of live television. Even hours later, the energy of that morning lingered. Discussions in production meetings, social media threads, and entertainment roundtables revolved around the same core questions. What could have been handled differently? What choices defined the escalation? And how would both Hugh and Kelly respond in the days to follow? The narrative, once linear and predictable, had transformed into a complex, multifaceted story with multiple stakeholders, each shaping its trajectory in real time. The tension, ultimately, was not just about a single disagreement. It reflected broader themes: the pressure of public performance, the expectations of celebrity behavior, and the fragility of human composure when placed under intense scrutiny. The interplay between his meticulous, measured approach and Kelly's dynamic, probing style highlighted the inherent unpredictability of live television. The audience, both in studio and online, became participants in a shared experience of suspense, drama, and emotional intensity. As the chapter drew to a close, the narrative shifted toward reflection and anticipation. The immediate conflict had passed, but the echoes of tension reverberated throughout the studio, social media, and broader entertainment industry. Questions remained. How would Hugh address the incident publicly? Would Kelly's hosting style adapt in response to the clash? Could live television survive such raw, unscripted human emotion without tipping further into chaos? These questions set the stage for what was to come, maintaining suspense and engagement, while offering viewers a deeper understanding of the complexities behind a seemingly simple celebrity interview. The story was no longer merely about an interview. It had become a study in the mechanics of tension, personality, and human interaction. Every glance, every pause, every subtle reaction was a thread in a larger tapestry, a cinematic narrative that combined suspense, emotion, and real-world stakes. The audience was drawn into the unfolding drama, anticipating the next reveal, the next escalation, the next insight into a story that had begun with smiles and ended with uncertainty. By the end of the segment, viewers were left on the edge of their seats, their curiosity ignited, and their engagement secured. The events of that morning set in motion a series of developments that would ripple through social media, news outlets, and entertainment commentary, creating a real-time narrative that demanded attention. The tension between Hugh Jackman and Kelly Clarkson, once a fleeting moment on a television set, had become a lens through which audiences could explore broader truths about celebrity, media, and the unpredictable nature of human interaction. Under pressure, the air in the studio had grown heavy, almost tangible, as though the walls themselves were leaning in to watch the confrontation unfold. What began as a simple interview had transformed into a high-stakes encounter, a battle of personalities playing out in real time. The audience, still buzzing from the earlier interruption, was now caught in the gravitational pull of the drama. Cameras shifted frequently, capturing micro-expressions that hinted at an underlying tension few could articulate, but everyone could feel. Hugh Jackman's carefully curated charm had begun to crack, revealing glimpses of a man frustrated by the direction of the conversation, while Kelly Clarkson's poise remained impeccable, even as her voice grew sharper, more insistent, challenging him in ways that made the air quiver with suspense. The pivotal moment came with a question that had been carefully prepared by the producers, intended to elicit insight into Hugh's latest projects. Instead, it ignited a chain reaction. The inquiry touched on a sensitive subject, one that was public enough to be newsworthy, but personal enough to stir defensiveness. Hugh's initial response was measured, polite, but with a firmness that suggested he would not be easily swayed. Kelly, sensing the tension, pressed forward, her tone deliberate, balancing friendliness with subtle assertiveness. What followed was a rapid-fire exchange, a back and forth that escalated faster than anyone could have anticipated. Each word, each pause, each gesture became magnified under the scrutiny of live television. Hugh's hands moved animatedly as he spoke, slicing through the air as if to carve out space for his perspective. Kelly leaned in, her brow furrowed just slightly, a calculated tilt of her head signaling both attentiveness and challenge. The audience felt the energy shift palpably. Gasps and murmurs punctuated the air, a reflection of the tension crackling across the stage. Every camera angle seemed to accentuate the intensity, zooming in on tightened jaws, narrowed eyes, and the subtle shifts in posture that conveyed the unspoken dialogue beneath the spoken words. A battle was no longer just verbal. It was physical, emotional, and profoundly human. Behind the cameras, the production team moved like a well-oiled machine under stress. Producers whispered into headsets, signaling camera operators, adjusting angles, and preparing for the possibility that the exchange could spiral further. Crew members flitted between monitors, analyzing live social media feeds, noting how snippets were already being shared online, each clip a potential flashpoint for public debate. In a matter of minutes, the conversation that was meant to highlight Hugh's career had become a cultural event, dissected and debated in real time by audiences far beyond the studio walls. Hugh's frustration became increasingly visible. His measured tone occasionally slipped, revealing a sharper edge, a subtle intensity that contrasted with his usual calm demeanor. Kelly's responses matched him beat for beat, her voice steady but firm, each phrase chosen to assert control without appearing combative. The choreography of the exchange, though improvised, was almost hypnotic. Two professionals navigating a conflict that none of the viewers were fully equipped to anticipate. The tension escalated as they touched on topics with both personal and professional resonance, their dialogue a delicate balance of honesty, wit, and restraint, each word carrying consequences that extended far beyond the moment. The live audience reacted instinctively. Some leaned forward, captivated by the drama, their eyes wide with intrigue. Others murmured softly to neighbors, trying to interpret the shifting dynamics. Camera pans captured fleeting reactions, faces lit with surprise, confusion, or amusement. The energy in the room was a mix of curiosity and suspense, as though everyone present could sense that they were witnessing something historic, a real-time collision of celebrity, temperament, and public scrutiny. Every gesture Hugh made, every glance Kelly threw, was magnified through the lens of anticipation and expectation. Social media, of course, had already erupted. Clips from the segment were being shared across platforms at an unprecedented pace. Tweets debated who had the upper hand, memes highlighted subtle expressions, and commentary threads dissected each verbal exchange. Analysts weighed in, offering insights into the dynamics of celebrity interviews, the pressures of live television, and the psychology of conflict under scrutiny. The studio, while confined physically, had expanded into a digital arena where millions of viewers could participate simultaneously, their reactions feeding back into the live environment and adding layers of intensity to the unfolding story. As the conversation continued, the interplay between Hugh and Kelly revealed deeper aspects of their personalities. Hugh's meticulous preparation and experience in handling media were evident, yet so was the human vulnerability that surfaced when he felt misrepresented or challenged. Kelly's intuition as a host allowed her to read subtle cues, responding with precision while maintaining her public persona. The result was a high-stakes dance. Every phrase, every inflection, and every micro-expression, a calculated move in a complex, unscripted performance. The audience, both in studio and online, became complicit in the drama, their engagement fueled by the unpredictability and authenticity of the exchange. At a particularly intense moment, Hugh leaned forward, his tone rising just enough to convey his frustration without losing professionalism. Kelly met him, her posture unwavering, her voice deliberate, each word carefully measured to maintain authority and poise. The tension peaked. The room seemed to hold its breath as two powerful personalities navigated the collision of ego, intellect, and public expectation. The audience was riveted, sensing that they were on the edge of something that could spiral beyond control, yet unable to look away. It was a masterclass in live television suspense, an unfolding narrative that blended charisma, conflict, and the raw unpredictability of human interaction. The production team, sensing the escalation, began contingency planning. Camera operators were repositioned, directors whispered instructions into headsets, and social media managers monitored trending hashtags, ready to respond to any narrative that emerged. Behind the scenes, there was a recognition that the unfolding confrontation could define public perception for days, even weeks. The balance between professionalism and volatility was delicate, and every decision made in real time had far-reaching implications. As the argument reached its zenith, the cameras captured every flicker of emotion, the tightening of Hugh's jaw, the slight narrowing of Kelly's eyes, the subtle hand gestures that punctuated their dialogue. The audience reacted audibly, some leaning in, some whispering, all captivated by the intensity. In that moment, the exchange transcended a simple celebrity interview. It became a lens through which viewers examined human behavior, public persona, and the high-pressure environment of live broadcast. Every element, the set design, lighting, camera angles, audience reactions, and dialogue combined to create a cinematic tableau of tension and suspense. Finally, the producers intervened. The subtle cues, once unnoticed, now culminated in a decision that would alter the course of the live broadcast. Hugh was politely but firmly guided toward the exit, a visible mix of frustration and composure on his face. Kelly maintained her stance, radiating professionalism while clearly impacted by the escalation. The audience, initially stunned, erupted. In a mixture of applause and murmurs, their emotional response, a reflection of the high-intensity exchange they had just witnessed. Cameras captured every movement, every expression, ensuring that the moment would live on in both footage and social media memory. The aftermath of this heated debate would dominate headlines, social media conversations, and entertainment commentary. Clips from the exchange circulated rapidly, each snippet dissected for nuance, intent, and emotional impact. Fans rallied around their interpretations, sparking debates about who won the confrontation, the ethics of questioning celebrities, unsensitive topics, and the pressures inherent in live television. Analysts highlighted the delicate balance of personality, expectation, and professionalism, framing the incident as both a cautionary tale and an illustration of the unpredictable nature of real-time broadcast.